Paul Becker was the boss. He's the president and founder of Dynamic Church Planting International, a visionary organization that equips leaders around the world to plant churches. But before Paul became a minister, he was a real outdoorsman. He started writing this book a year or so before he finally transitions to glory after the battle with cancer. May he rest in peace. I'm going to share with you one of the stories that he had in his book called Walking with God on the Wild Side. Paul was a brilliant person, but he wasn't a book kind of person. He found this school in Sarasota, Florida. He was from California. He went all the way to Florida in order to go to this new college in Sarasota, Florida, where instead of sitting you in a classroom, you would learn by talking to people, interviewing people, interacting with people, learning projects, doing special projects to learn and grow and develop. And he had this one special project he wanted to write short stories about Caribbean islands. So that was the project he took on. He decided he was going to go to the Bahamas first. And he was already going to the Bahamas, and he had decided he was going to hitchhike on a private plane to the Bahamas. Well, that didn't work out. But what he did wind up doing was getting a one-way ticket to the U.S. Virgin Islands. And he, pretty gregarious guy, he made friends. So by the time he got off that little plane ride, he had a job where he would help this other passenger with his grocery delivery service. So that's what he began doing when he got there on the island. That kept him busy. And then he also found a job where he could help prepare some of the boats for the strong winds of the winter season, because that was coming up, and everybody wanted to have their boats ready and prepared with the lights on and everything for Christmas time. So he was doing that. That was doing well. And he just really had a great time meeting people and talking to people and writing and studying. And suddenly he realizes that the year is tricking away. And he had one major dream. He had the dream of circumnavigating St. John's Island all alone. That's about a 60-mile journey at sea all alone. This is what he wanted to do. So he scratched out some time, and he rented a bluefish, which is a little sailboat. It's about 4 feet wide, about 14 feet long, and it has this dagger board, which is sort of this keel that can slide up and down, to sort of keep the stability of the ship. And that's when he set out the island, circled the island on. Came out Cruz Bay, and he starts. And it's a beautiful, tropical, warm, sunshiny day. The water is crystal blue. It's smooth. The wind is full of the sail. He's cruising along. He's got his hand in the water. Just dragging his hand in the water. He got the warm salt water on his face. He said, "This is the life. This is what I want." And all of a sudden he heard a noise on his port side. That's the left side. He heard this noise. And all of a sudden he saw rise up out of the water this magnificent manta ray. Just went up, soared into the air, then came down with a splash that sort of rocked the boat a little bit. And he looked at that and said, "That thing is about 3,000 pounds. A whole lot bigger than this little sunfish. And it's been under me. What else is down there? Is it wise for me to be out here doing this?" But he didn't quit. He kept on with his journey. He sailed a little longer, and he got to a place, a little island, place that had a little restaurant called Foxy's. And he had a nice lobster lunch there, and he rested up. And he started talking to the proprietor of of the island, and he said, those uninhabited islands there, they don't care if I stay over there? He said, yeah. Well, what are they like? He said, well, that one right there is called Mosquito Key, and that one over there is called Sandy's Key. Now, which one would you choose? So Paul, of course, chose Sandy Key. And he went over to Sandy Key, he found a nice place, and he pitched his tent in his sleeping bag and lay there just ready to go down for the night. He got in the tent, and he closed down the zipper. It had a nice mosquito netting. He thought it was all good. And it did keep the mosquitoes out. But they had these things that he called no-see-ums, these sand flies that bite worse than a mosquito. And he found himself hard time getting comfortable in that tent, so he said, well, I'll get down inside my sleeping bag. But it's over 90 degrees in that sleeping bag. He's hot and he's sweating. He's miserable. He realized, I cannot sleep like this. So he said, I'm gonna get out. And he said, yeah, well, he knew a little bit. He said, well, a good breeze will probably keep the mosquitoes and the sand fleas from coming around. So he went to another part of the island and he sort of set up his tent there. And this nice breeze, he said, it's all good now. And he went to sleep. And as sleep rolled over him, suddenly something wet rolled over him too. Because he heard the sound of the ocean unusually close than when it started out. And without looking, a good rookie mistake, he found out that he had pitched his tent a little below the tide line. And now the tide was coming in, splashing, and he's wet. He's floating. He's soaking. He's thinking, I had the most miserable night of my life. This is not a wise thing to do. But he got his stuff, he got his wet sleeping bag, he went down further along the beach. And he put his stuff up to wet and dry, high above the tide line. And he sat on the log and said, I will sit here, wait till the dawn, and then maybe I'll go back home. But as he sat there, he realized, no, I started this thing, I'm going to finish it. He didn't quit. He got back out that next morning with his wet sleeping bag and his wet tent. He goes back out to sea, and things are going for a while. And then it became the calm. The calm is when the wind don't blow. Now, when you're in a sailboat and the wind don't blow, you don't go. So he's sitting there in the afternoon, the sun beaming down on him, and he's tacking left, tacking right, and trying to get the ship to go backward. It's not going. He's just sitting there. He said, oh, this is terrible. A terrible night with no sleep, and now this. But I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit. So finally, after hours of going back and forth, finally, got enough wind, he started sailing again. He got to another part of the island where it was and he remembered he had met this man on the flight over who said he had a vacation home out there. He knocked on the door and asked the caretaker, do you think I can just stay here tonight? And the caretaker let him stay for the night. He said, all right, it's another day. He gets back out there one more time. He starts going. And it's looking good. He gets another place where he can rest, and he decides to snorkel and maybe get some lobster himself. And he snorkeled down, and he found a lobster, and he was pulling on the antenna of the lobster to come out, and clearly that lobster wanted to live more than he wanted to eat it. And after a while, he just gave it up. He said, okay, I'll not have lobster, I'll not eat tonight, but I'm not going to quit. So he keeps going again. And you know, there's a time when you're on the journey, and you get to that transformative moment where it just seems like you just can't go any farther. You want to quit, but sometimes the opportunity, the reward is right around the next corner. And he found that to be the case. He stuck with it. Suddenly he found it. Wind blowing again. He's sailing and he's keeling. That's keeling. That's when the boat's leaning to the side. Sailing forward, it's leaning to the side. going fast, almost hydroplaning. He says, oh, this is so cool. And he looks through that crystal blue water and he looks and realizes that, oh, I'm headed for the coral reef and I got the dagger board down. And he knows if his dagger board hits the coral reef, it is flipped, torn up, lost at sea. So quickly, he didn't pull it up in time. He just, with inches to go, glided over the coral sea. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. He made that. He finally made it around the island. And he's ready to say, I did it. I've done it now. And then just as he's about to go into Cruise Bay again, a 50-foot ferry boat came along. No. And the wake of the ferry boat hit the little sunfish, flipped it over, right where his friends who were standing on the dock could see it. But he recovered, he's got it set back up, and another ferry boat wave hit it, flipped twice. Oh no. Now, sometimes it flipped. And he thought to tell his friends as he got ashore. Those were the only 2 times it flipped, but they wouldn't believe it. But he did get it. He completed the journey. And that's where he learned his lesson of perseverance, of sticking to that what you're called to and committed to. That's a good lesson I got from Paul Becker. Stick to it. Don't give up. Persevere. Great lesson of faith. God bless you.